Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and this past week I showed you how my husband constructed the stand in order for me to set up 21 new aquariums in my fish room. This week I'm going to show you how I actually set up the aquariums as well as why. I first started, of course, by making sure that my stands were completely level. I got together all of my airline valves, a 3/8 inch drill bit, and my power cordless drill. I then measured out on the stands where I was going to be placing each of these valves. You see, I've run PVC, or my husband and I ran PVC in a loop around my entire fish room. What this allows me to do is to add these ports and then run airline to the specific aquariums. And my entire fish room is run off one singular 80-watt pump to provide filtration to every aquarium. It's a really cost-effective and efficient way if you're going to be filtering a whole lot of aquariums. So I just went around and drilled the holes and then used the drill again to place the valves into the PVC. This was probably one of the more time-consuming parts just because it's a lot of back and forth and climbing up on this huge stand. But it's well worth doing this right. Now, in the past, I had just run the PVC along the top of the ceiling line, and this time I ran it in sort of an S shape behind the stand so that I could have shorter lengths of airline tubing. This makes it easier for me to maintain as well as control the amount of air going to each aquarium. I then drained the aquariums, cleaning them at the same time until there was only maybe an inch or two of water in them. I removed any decor that could potentially fall over. And then I moved the tanks one by one. Now, about 40 of my aquariums were in storage, so some were set up dry, some still had fish. I did not catch the fish first. I just removed any decor that could potentially squish anyone and then put it back after the aquariums were moved. I also took this opportunity to really figure out what fish I have in the fish room. It's easy to just feed and maintain without knowing exactly what's in there. And boy, did I get a surprise when I got down to one of my lower aquariums that hasn't had a light for several years now. I just have to show you guys. I found a ton of creepy or coolie loaches there. Now, since these have been in the fish room for several years, I went ahead and just added them into my 150-gallon hill stream so they could be with other fish that were like them. I repeated this with the second rack and really just spent, I think it was only maybe 2 or 3 hours start to finish to move all these aquariums. But I have to tell you, it felt like forever. And I was very, very excited to be finished when the last tank was in place. I then drug the old racks out of the way. Those are now wire wheeled, repainted, and available for sale for anyone who is local that has interest in 6 by 10 gallon or 6 by 15 gallon or 6 by 30 gallon tank stands. You can reach me via email should you be interested. Now, I had to get this done because I need to move the fish in from the greenhouse as well as all of the shrimp that I'm expecting. I also wanted to have a few extra empty tanks in order to get in some new fish to quarantine to put into my displays. Many of these creatures will be available for sale at some point, so make sure you're subscribed with that notification bell on, as well as following my website and my Instagram at Ms. Jinxed in order to know when that occurs. Let's head out to the greenhouse and move in the critters for these new aquariums. Today we're out in the greenhouse because I have got to get the stuff out of here. Now, I still have a few weeks left for the plants, so stay tuned for how I overwinter the plants. But for today, we're going to get all these baskets pulled, catch whatever fish and shrimp that we can, get them moved into my new rack in the basement. If you haven't been following along, my husband just built me a new 7-foot 3-tiered rack to hold small aquariums to house all the fish or invertebrates that I'm going to have for sale. And this is really convenient because it's located right next to my shipping station, which means with my bad knee, I should be able to sit down for a lot of the bagging. It's a real game changer for me, and I'm hopeful that it'll work out. So out here in the greenhouse, we have 9 bins running. This whole side is shrimp, this side was fish. I don't expect much from this side because most of the fish on this side were complete experiments this year. But we'll find out together. So I'll start by pulling all of the floating plants as well as the baskets, moving them out of the way, clearing off any debris, siphoning down some of the water, and then catching the fish. Now, this is all my tap water, so I don't need to worry so much about moving water in with them, because it's essentially the same as what the tanks are filled with down in the basement. If I were to be moving things in from the ones in my yard, then I would take in some of the rainwater with me in order to acclimate them over time. Let's get to work. Now I'm going to start by just moving all of the plants that are in these containers just up above for now. At some point I will move in a bin, or maybe after I empty these I'll move a bin in order to overwinter these plants. But for now I just need to get them out of the way so that I can catch the fish. And that's one of the reasons that instead of planting into the substrate, I use these baskets and containers. It makes it easy come end of season to deal with the fish. Now, things like this hornwort, I won't overwinter, so I'll grab a bucket to discard this stuff. Now, after I think I've collected most of the fish, I'll start a siphon, drain it down, let it settle, and then look for additional fish. And I'll move on to the next bin. I'll keep you guys updated. I'm just pulling all the algae and debris off the net before I lift it out of the water so that I can transfer the fish without transferring the stuff I don't want to move. These are the least killies, which appear to have done quite well. Again, looking for shiny eyeballs. And I'll give the net a few rinses each time because there's always babies stuck. Or not stuck, but in the net. Now these are a fish I particularly like and that do particularly well outdoors because they are a U.S. native. So many. That's awesome. Now these are a super teeny fish, so I am taking a lot of time to look through the net each time. Their fry are absolutely adorably small. And again, these are one that, oh, there's another one, that do exceptionally well outdoors because they can take very, very warm temperatures coming from the southern U.S., but also can take pretty profound cold snaps. So they are really wonderful. Now these bins are full of lots of plant roots and a bit of dirt and all kinds of stuff from basically being left to their own devices all summer. Now because this was in my greenhouse, I did have to top them off quite frequently. Now I haven't caught anything for a few sweeps, so I'm going to go ahead and let this settle and then drain it down as well. Now it's the same thing with the shrimp, it just takes a little more attention to detail. This is the yellow bin, and you want to look for wiggles. You can see there's quite a few in my hand, and then I'm putting them into a bucket because these guys have been going gangbusters. And then I look in all the crevices of the net and gently move the shrimp out of the net into the bucket. Again, just like with the fish, submerging the net a few times to make sure no one's stuck under all the floating fern that was in this. And then I'll just gently move this out of the way and look through it to make sure there's no shrimp trapped in it. The yellows really did awesome this year. I forget how many I moved out, but I know it wasn't many. And I've just been collecting scoop after scoop after scoop after scoop of shrimp. You can see it's very, very awesome. So I start by depositing those into the bucket and then looking through for ones like this guy to then move in. And I'll be sure to show you guys the yield once I'm done collecting everything. I'm just kind of under the gun as I have aquatic experience this weekend. But I had to wait to do this until I had the new rack set up. So this season's been kind of all over the place as far as my yields, and it's all my fault, but there wasn't a whole lot I could do. Is what it is. Again, doing this multiple times to make sure I have all the shrimp from that particular sweep before putting the net back into the tub. Wow, that's a beauty. See that? Now there's a bunch in this scoop, but I also picked up some gravel. So I'm going to try and sift that through my hands to remove and spread it out from underneath so that I can get to the shrimp. And then I just go through each section of the net, sort of rolling the substrate out of the way to look for shrimp. So you can see now that the bin is drained down just a small amount of water, I can visualize the shrimp that are left in this tub. So that's so that I can collect the rest. All right, cherry shrimp. Now these generally do pretty well. Again, I'm going to start by surface skimming, grabbing some water. Thought I saw one jumping around. It's important when you're removing the surface plants to check for shrimp. I have made an enormous mess, but I have time to clean up later. I don't have time to catch these critters. So, just need to get things done. Now, cherry shrimp are pretty easy to catch because they're such a vibrant color. It's easy to see them within the floating plants, or even when you pull up detritus from the bottom of the bins. Again, rinsing the net, pulling out, see, I used water hyacinth as well as other floating plants in a lot of these bins. So there's a lot of little like shrapnel of roots that are left, which is awesome during the breeding season, but it makes it kind of a pain when you're trying to bring stuff in because it's real easy for fry to be underneath. So basically I'll move all these shrimp in kind of gross water, add some tank water, pull out any of the particulates and plant matter that I don't want to add to my aquariums, and sort of go from there. It is a multi-stage process. It is a pain in the butt, but it's also the easiest way with the best yield to breed a lot of this stuff. So as you can see, most of these bins are emptied now. I've moved all of the potted plants into those N2. Either today or tomorrow I will do the same for all the potted plants in my yard tubs. I will overwinter all the plants in here. I'll show you that here in a few weeks, but over the next few days I'll continue to look into these tubs to see if there are any remaining shrimp or fish. And now we will move everybody down to the basement and take a better look. So as you can see, there are quite a lot of yellows. They did exceptionally well. I'm extremely pleased. Some blues, not really anything earth-shattering. The Carai Tetras did nothing, which is pretty surprising and disappointing. The least killies did super, super well. There's quite a lot in there, especially because I only moved out a small handful. You can see there's fry of all sizes as well as up to adults. So I'm pretty excited about that. I really don't know why the yellows and the cherries went bonkers and the blues and the Rillies didn't really do much at all. But we'll get these guys into aquariums and see what happens. The red one is still pretty full of debris. I need to clean it out, but you can see how nice their colors are. And there's obviously like tons of shrimp in here. So, I mean, just shrimp everywhere. So that was a big success as well.